Greetings one and all, and welcome to a Mystica Mind Analysis 200 and something subscriber special. I'm the Nightmare Rider, Major Mind, reminding you as always that even a cheeseburger can be deconstructed to its original source. Rainbow Rocks is the sequel to the 2013 MLP spin-off movie Equestria Girls, a film that did garner quite a bit of negative criticism upon its release. I generally found it to be a solidly written start to the franchise, far from perfect, but with a bit of polish and a tighter story to remove the Deus Ex Machina and develop Sunset a little more, it could have easily been turned from a good film into a great film. The Mysterious Mr. Enters review of the first movie more or less sums up my thoughts on it, although what I liked most about EQG was the fact that it confirmed my headcanon of Twilight being a princess of friendship. In this case, friendship literally is magic. Rainbow Rocks builds upon the consequences of the previous movie's climax, the story centering around the redemption arc of Sunset Simmer. While her turning good at the end of the first movie was a bit of a face-heel turn, it could easily be suggested that the power of friendship was so emotionally overwhelming, it made Sunset realise just how much her own selfishness was motivated by an every man for himself logic. Naturally, the students at the school would not be so ready to accept her redemption, considering her reputation as a master manipulator. This is a good initial setup for the conflict, as the structure of a band is a good visual metaphor for how Sunset feels out of place, each of the main five having a role to play as part of the band, even Fluttershy, who plays a less conventional instrument for a band that doesn't play folk metal to include. Sunset wants to make a contribution, yet she does not have the confidence to speak up to offer her own ideas due to how much her past drama is still fresh in everyone's minds. This is further amplified by the Dazzling's power. Because their magical gems amplify their voice to influence people, the conflict among the other students only further makes Sunset feel like she's walking on eggshells. She wants to try and show herself in a good light so that everyone will understand that she has changed, but this is something that's hard to do given the toxic atmosphere caused by the Dazzlings. This confirmation bias reveals itself when Sunset stops Rainbow Dash from revealing her full music-induced powers, since the competing school kids are already prone to seeing Sunset as selfish. They are more likely to interpret this event as her being malicious.
Now that's the bad girl we love to hate!
I knew she was still trouble!
The real Sunset Shimmer is back!
No, it isn't like that.
But here is where the plot starts to fall apart. First of all, only Flash Sentry and the main five were ever established to have any musical background to begin with. There was going to be a musical showcase, but we know absolutely nothing about the backgrounds of the students, so rather than the Dazzling's magic amplifying existing tensions between everyone, most of the bickering comes completely out of nowhere. The Dazzlings themselves are fascinating villains in concept, however in execution they are little more than archetypes. Adiago is the confident leader, Arya is the grumpy complainer, while Sonata is the ditzy dunce whose obliviousness annoys the other two. These character traits would be interesting if they made any contribution to the actual story or development of these characters, but instead they are used for throwaway gags and nothing more. This is made even more annoying by the fact that they have absolutely zero need for any conflict at any point in the story. At least in the first EQG movie, Twilight and her friends were able to use their influence to counter Sunset's plan, forcing her to put more effort into pulling strings so everything went her way. At least the climax of the previous movie showed how Sunset had to escalate her threats to get Twilight's crown. In Rainbow Rocks, the same single conflict is repeated over and over with no change. Because it is established very early on that there is no chance that they won't reach the end, all drama is killed right out of the gate. The initial scene where the Rainbows perform as the worst example of this. Rarity's single-minded obsession with fashion leads to a plot-convenient sabotage with magnets that wouldn't be able to happen any other way except in this scenario. Fluttershy's meekness and stage fright only shows up in the spotlight. Rainbow Dash's ego means she is inconsiderate of everyone else, not to mention how Twilight does nothing beyond constantly fretting over the spell being spot on. Worse still, Principal Celestia and Vice Principal Luna do not notice any of the sabotage that is happening right in front of their eyes. Furthermore, considering how the Dazzlings want them to win anyway, the fact that they make them fight amongst each other in every single round is completely pointless. This conflict is about as subtle as a pan-galactic gargle blaster. I think Nash describes my feelings of how this conflict is presented well, repeatedly beating the message over our heads. The problem is not the fact that Rainbow Dash can be arrogant, or that Twilight can be a perfectionist. It's the fact that these flaws become the only traits on display to the point where all other aspects of their their personality that would lead them to think about others are cast aside completely. This could be massively improved if the Dazzlings would gradually try to drive the main six apart, with everyone cracking at the end. Sunset would be the best character to keep an eye out for the Dazzlings' plan, mitigating the damage by talking to each of the main six individually before bringing them back together at the end. So while the Rainboons would have advanced by the skin of their teeth, the internal conflict among the Dazzlings could grow stronger out of frustration, thus leading to the downfall through disharmony. Spike would even be the one to help Sunset, noting how Twilight's frustration is growing, thus doing his duty as the #1 assistant to keep Twilight's paranoia in check, just as he did in Lesson 0. As it is, Spike's role in the plot is minimal, but the payoff at the end when he finally does get involved is honestly a moment of genius. Vinyl Scratch's involvement was a really clever bit of foreshadowing, since even without the short, we see her walking into the cafe and backgrounds behind Sunset and the main six, as well as never seeing her anywhere near the Battle Royal bands. Because Vinyl never removes her headphones, she's too busy enjoying her own music to care about proving her superiority to others, thus providing the technology for the Rainbows to give their ultimate performance.
How are we supposed to play over them from up here?
And this time around, the magical musical battle is not a Deus Ex Machina that comes out of nowhere like the last movie. We established from the start of the film that the residual equestrian magic was from Twilight's crown on her last visit, and while it doesn't exactly explain why it is activated by music, it is strongly implied that the friendship of the Rainboons is the most harmony when playing together in the band, showing off the best of their musical talents. Not to mention how Pinkie Pie's moment of genius to allow Twilight to travel back to the human world to begin with is also awesome.
And the interval between the 2 points is defined as the square root of the sum of the squares of the separation between the points along 3 spatial dimensions.
Say what now?
Duh! She's gonna take the magic in here and put it in there. That'll make the portal open up so that whenever she wants to, she can go from here to there. There to here. Here to there. Here to there. Here to there. Here to there.
We get the idea.
Overall, Rainbow Rocks fits neatly into the category of missed opportunities. The Dazzlings were wasted through a lack of development, favouring a repetitive non-conflict, shallow characters and pacing that stretches out the story much too thin with excessive dialogue. Sunset's redemption makes up for a minimal development she had in the previous movie, combined with the more clever moments of humour, contributing to the whole experience being enjoyable at the least. This is a diamond covered with extra amount of rough, one that needs a lot of polishing to truly shine with Megan McCarthy's writing. I give Equestria Girls Rainbow Rocks a final grade of a C+ and a modest recommendation. Only watch if you can turn your brain off and enjoy the music or the humour over the thin plot. Until the next time, thank you very much to everyone who has subscribed to me at this point. But for now, this is the Nightmare Rider, Major Mind, riding out.